Hi, everybody. This is day 1477 days since Richard was premeditatedly, code red, murdered on Fort Bliss, and this was after he was unjustly retaliated against for being a whistleblower, reporting, collecting evidence, filing with the CID, with the CPS, with the FBI Houston, with Washington, D.C., with he's communicating with them. The IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday. He was reporting criminal trafficking, and um, and it was big. It was big, and so they retaliated against him with everything that they had. Even Major General Clem Coward retaliated against him. The canine cop at midnight in a traffic stop retaliated, which is a subject today um, in the information, the new breaking news. Because, every day is breaking news. I can put breaking news every day up, and I wouldn't be lying. Um, this is, crazy that they would retaliate against him. Why? To discredit him. They wanted to discredit him. They wanted to turn him into somebody that the rest of the law enforcement community would not listen to, would not believe, that the media would not be able to use in their articles. Not that that matters, but it's very important for people to understand that every article, every news broadcast, because they have authority, because they're supposed to be taking, being ethical, and they're supposed to be vetting their sources, right? They're supposed to be vetting their sources. They're supposed to have reliable sources. They're supposed to double check their information. They are given lots of tools. They have lots of tools to double check. They get access to press conferences and discussions and everything. And so everything that they print, everything that they record, everything that they put out there can be used in a court, right? Can be used in a court of civil or even criminal law. So it's very, very important to look at our media in a very new way. In a new way, I think that, well, maybe not a new way, maybe it's just we've been complacent. We haven't taught each other that everything that is used in media, when they put it into print or video form or social media, if Fox News, if CNN, they carry a certain weight, and that is used in courts of law, and that forms policy. That forms policy that also dictates cases. And it also dictates the records of history. And I think that's very, very important for people to understand. And I want to talk about Natassia Paloma and what a criminal we think she is. We really believe that she's a total criminal for KTSM, and she got up and left. And I don't believe the reason why she got up and left. Maybe it's right, but I think that she's so compromised by them, and maybe she has some story. I don't know, but she hasn't come out since. She's stayed silent since, and she absolutely committed the worst crimes a journalist can commit. And and I'm not. This is. Uh, Thank you, Danielle, for coming on. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on. But let me explain to you a little bit about why I believe that Natassia Paloma Thompson is a total criminal, and everything that is going on today that is breaking news. when it comes to the courts, when it comes to judges, when it comes to judges being appointed or having to be elected. What what is the decision for that, right? Who decides if a judge can be appointed or if a judge must be elected? Okay, so that it's this is the big conversation that the focus is on judges right now in politics. And the fight, I believe, is to control like the Supreme Court, to maybe pack the Supreme Court, control how judges are either elected or appointed. I believe that they want them all to be appointed, right? Um, so it is a very, very important to understand it. Do I totally understand it? No. But the next few days, well, it's probably gonna take longer than that. I remember years and years ago, and I'm going off on a tangent right now, but years and years ago I said to myself, that's it. I am going to take 1 year out and learn the Bible. And then after a year, you're like, oh my goodness. I mean, that was like the best decision. But you realize how out of tune you are when it comes to learning how the system works, learning how the words of God, right? And so I'm thinking about how all this, our criminal system with the district judges, with the county judges, with the municipal judges, their jurisdictions, how do their jurisdictions work? And this is very, very important that we learn this in our upcoming battle for Richard's remains, for reestablishing Richard's position. All of that Phil Grade Article 15 needs to be rescinded. I can tell you that right now. And the today breaking news makes it look really, really good that our chances are very, very good. The Gomar needs to be dropped. Every picture, and his record is spotless, and it's going to be even more spotless. And he's going to change our son Richard and what he did and standing up to the criminal traffickers is going to change El Paso. Really, he will be remembered. I don't know for how long, but he's going to be remembered. It's amazing what is happening, what we are finding out because we have been driven to be the investigators, driven to have to um, make these advances in change in undoing the criminal activity that was done to Richard, really. So, and going back to Natassia Paloma, she was part of the real hurt for, you know, I will tell you this. She absolutely knew. She absolutely knew that Danae was a farce. Look, when we met Danae Katzen, who they called her Jane Doe, we called her credit card girl. Um, Danae Katzen is a total criminal, a total criminal. Now, I have always, I guess I'm a softie or whatever, which is not a good thing because we need to find, we need to absolutely go by the law, right? And sometimes that's very, very difficult because when I look at Danae Katzen and I know that she's related to Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, and I know that I know her family is up to no good and they're on Bliss Avenue. And it's like really heartbreaking because you know that she's been groomed for this kind of lifestyle um, of trouble, just trouble for people. But it doesn't change the fact that she absolutely committed terrible crimes in the case of our son. And if she does it for Richard's case, how many other people is she doing this to? And, ruining our society, clogging up our legal system, um, because as soon as she gets in there, arrested, they let her go because she has these connections, right? She's connected. And you ask, well, wait a minute, she's been discredited in the news, and she has been. She's been discredited by KTSM. Those stories were spread all over the place by FitFam El Paso. And by the way, I just made an announcement that we're the ones that acquired FitFam El Paso LLC. We acquired them, and we're announcing it, and it's been a while. We've had it for a while. And we're just there. This case is moving so fast that you have to take some time out to think about strategy. I guess strategy. We knew when FitFam El Paso LLC, and I know I'm all over the place tonight because so many things are going on. I can't even tell you, with the judges, with KTSM, with Danae, with Natassia, Paloma, with strategy, right? With the FitFam El Paso, with Bill Hicks. Bill Hicks is in real trouble. Real trouble. I made a meme, and I want to post it up. But I just wanted a little bit of time for, to make sure that this will help us get Richard's remains back. How is this going to help us get Richard's remains back? How is this going to help us? Every question Rob and I, we ask, how is this going to help us get Richard's rank back? Right? Hold these people accountable for what they did to Richard. And most importantly, have them give us our son's remains back. So when we're talking about Natassia Paloma, she's a mother of two, right? She is highly visible because that's her business is health and all of that. And being out there, I guess she gave up her job as being an anchor. And the reason why I wanted to talk about her, and with FitFam and KTSM and El Paso Matters, is because they all have conflicts of interest, right? They're connected. And they targeted our son's case. They targeted our son, and they targeted our family. They targeted Team Find Richard Halliday. And they targeted it to obstruct justice and to promulgate, I don't know if that's the right word to say that, but to spread a false narrative to the public, to rewrite history so that there won't be the truth that can be used in a court of law in order for us to get our son's remains back, to hold the murderers and the accomplices accountable, and to reinstate his rightful rank and position. You see, the media is very, very important, because if they're not going to print the truth, just like this latest August 3rd, 2019 anniversary, where they are still insisting on using unreliable criminal sources like Ernest Christopher Grant, who was the media sweetheart. And they insist on using this criminal who has connections that are so big that they protect him. And he is a major criminal, y'all. A major criminal, and it's connected to Richard's case. This Walmart case is connected to Richard's case, and that they are using a criminal, unreliable source that rubs shoulders with Chris Cuomo, with Beto O'Rourke, with the CBP, right? With the El Paso Police Department officer, right? And more. And there's more. These witnesses that spread a false narrative that was so absolutely terrible, saying that Patrick Crusius was in talk about bloodbath, right? Was in a bloodbath. Really? That's exactly what Ernest Christopher Grant, the picture he painted, being a media sweetheart, wanted everyone to believe. And yet, the truth was right in front of us. Now, is Patrick Crusius, we need to know the truth about Patrick Crusius, right? And they haven't even put him through a mental health evaluation because they don't want, not that they want to see if he's mentally unable. We all know from the federal case, we all know from just observing him that he has a severe mental health condition, right? That's already established. But they don't want anyone talking to him. They don't want anyone. That's why they haven't scheduled a mental health evaluation. He's in isolation, y'all. Because they're trying to get out Ernest Christopher Grant's very fake, unreliable, criminal, divisive, hateful. It's a hate crime. It is an absolute hate crime to try to push this manifesto that we don't even have the answers for, because not even a psychologist or a psychiatrist can go into meet with Patrick Crusius and discuss what's going on. What's going on? What led you to do this? Tell me about this manifesto. Tell me why your shoes were so clean, why your pants were so clean, why your shirt was so clean. He already said in a court that he was not racist, and he walked up and surrendered to a Hispanic law enforcement officer. Yet they want to push it, down our throat. But not even that. They don't really even care what you think. They want to document the lie. They want to document the lie that they can control the courts, that they can control policy. And this is what people really need to understand. The media, when it documents history, a crime, and they're using false narratives, and they're using an unreliable source. That power is so huge because now they're affecting policy, politics, and the courts. They want you to hate Patrick Crucius so much that you will insist on the death penalty for him without even hearing a case, without even hearing the evidence, without even, and they're just so evil. And so with that, let's go back to Natassia Paloma. Let's go back to Bill Hicks. Let's add in Mario Raskin Ortiz. Let's go to Danae Katzen and Jonathan Ambrose and the rest of the KTSM team there. And I'm telling you, when we met Danae Katzen at KTSM, she was there waiting for us. We didn't have to wait for her. We got there early, but she was there waiting for us. And she knew where to go. She led us. She knew where the conference room was. She knew where the studio was. She knew where to sit. She wasn't nervous. She knew to tell them to black her out. She knew she was at home. She knew where the bathroom was. She was at home at KTSM. They rolled out the red carpet. I thought it was for Richard's case. No. It was for the false narrative that Danae Katzen was going to deliver, and they were going to document. And who would be the face of that? Natassia Paloma. Natassia Paloma would be the face of misinformation delivery. I was rereading because, you're at that time, you're so vulnerable, right? You do not know what's going on. You're very vulnerable. And you absolutely don't know there's a cartel connected rogue group from the original response team that want to misdirect you and house the prime suspect of the murderers of Richard. You don't know that, but they knew it. And we were so vulnerable. And so I've been going back and reading, well, we all have Team Find Richard Halliday, the reports that Natassia Paloma gave, and with Danae and the and all of our notes and recordings and everything like that. And it is, oh, wow, when you go back, you're like, wow, you were so vulnerable. Because Danae says on the day that she called me, the 26th of September, she had went on this date. That's what she told Natassia. And I mean, that bugged me because then I knew I was like, Pat, why didn't you read that before? Why didn't we all read that before and understand how what, that was a total red flag. Um, and of course, the soldier was in Delta Battery 143. Jonathan Slavitt, everyone knows his name. Jonathan Slavitt was called out by Danae Katzen. I don't know why. Her husband, Jonathan Embrice, was 143 ADA, Fort Bliss. Of course, Dallas Hart was Richard's platoon leader. Um, you know, and there's, just a lot of criminal activity. And it's all going to be clarified. And Jonathan Ambrose could, Jonathan Slavitt could clarify a lot for us. But they stay silent. I don't know if it's because they had a plea deal, and signed things. I don't know. But Natassia Paloma, she might have had some kind of deal when she left KTSM that she wasn't allowed to talk about the cases, especially Richard's case. I don't know. She's very silent. We've reached out to her, and now knowing what we know, what I'm about to tell you, and I should post it up. I should post the picture. I will after this. There's so much. Maybe someone can do it. But on January 21st, 2021, she did a little like video for her Facebook, a Facebook Live that she did after her 6 o'clock show, right? And and she mentioned lots of things, but it was on Richard Halliday. And it was about being invited to Fort Bliss to attend a press conference with Major General at the time, the commanding general of Fort Bliss, Sean Bernabe, and that only, and this happened all throughout. This was not the first time, and this is absolutely criminal. But only a few invited journalists would be able to go. Okay, it wasn't an open press conference. Only this is about the murdered soldier on Fort Bliss. They called him a missing one at that time, but they absolutely knew that he was murdered. We have all of the corroborating evidence that they knew from Director of Emergency Services, from Homeland Security, from Department of State. They absolutely, from FBI, that they absolutely knew at that time and had Richard's remains, that he had been murdered and they had his remains. And, so this press conference on January 21, 2021, is very interesting that Sean Bernabe would call Natassia. She was in communications with him very often. And we knew that because she told us that. And of course, in this live stream, she says that she was in communication with him. And, she was invited. Now, at this point, we didn't know, but she knew that she was a confirmed, I want to say confirmed criminal, a confirmed what do you want to say? Accomplice. Accomplice to Danae Katzen and Jonathan Ambrice. And I don't know if it was Jonathan Slavitt. I have to hear his story, but right now, I'm okay. I'll just put it in there because sometimes I just giving them too much benefit of the doubt. I want to err on, hey, let's hear their story. But absolutely the copy editor, David Candelera, um, and of course Louis, who I don't mention very often. He was our cameraman. We didn't hire him at all. He showed up when we got there, and he was very comfortable too there. Very comfortable. And he was with us for months. It's really sad. It really is sad. Um, the betrayal, the absolute betrayal. And the position that he had, the reason, the motive for him to follow us was that he was going to do a documentary. Well, where is he? Where is he? This is a huge story, a very interesting story. But he was there at KTSM with us, and this whole everything gets so convoluted, and it makes your head spin. And I really apologize for that. But the point that I want to make is that KTSM are bad actors, and Natassia Paloma Thompson is the face of those bad actors. And she knew what she was doing. And she was up to no good. And January 21st, 2021 is a very important date because just the day before that, we had submitted our report to the command and to other agencies, whatever, that we had discovered who Nadal Baim was. Who was that FBI man that walked in to the Dollar General store? Remember, that happened on October 26th, right? Or 28th? Let me see my timeline there. I always get that confused. And they went crazy. That's the day that the FBI took over the case. But we didn't know who this man was. And he was wearing a mask. But by the end of January, close to the end of January, God showed us how to figure out who he was. And we called him. We called him and we talked to him. And he corroborated everything. And I have a text message on January 21st, 2021 to Team Find Richard Halliday that corroborates what I'm telling you right now. And that day, Natassia Paloma got a call from the commanding general of Fort Bliss to say, come on in, we have to discuss this. The Halliday family knows who Nadal Baim is. Can you imagine what the keyboard warriors were doing because of all the LLCs, because of all the contracts and contract bids and all of that stuff? And who is all behind Western Frontier Trading LLC? Can you imagine? They were absolutely not freaking out that we would get anywhere. Because, that, hey, we got the FBI and the FBI's wife is intelligence, and we got Fit Fam El Paso, those HRC people and military behind Fit Fam El Paso, and we've got KTSM, David Candelera and Natassia Paloma. Everyone's going to believe her, and then we've got Bob Moore at El Paso Matters. We've got some Congress people. We've got, I mean, yeah, like Veronica Escobar. And, they weren't afraid of us at all. And I think that's part of their bravado. Um, they weren't afraid. But um, the contracts, the LLCs, that revealed too much. Too much because of the connections, the conflicts of interest. It's kind of like Bill Hicks with Purchase Funeral Homes, right? I'm I'm going to prosecute the Walmart mass shooting, but my client Purchase Funeral Homes, they made pretty good money with that. I mean, the conflict of interest is so big. Is so big. He should never have been appointed for that position. Never. Because he has even more. He has even more conflicts of interest other than Purchase Funeral Homes. Um, so with this connection, I mean, that connects him with Mario Raskin Ortiz, right? And there's more. And there's more. There's so much more. But this gets so convoluted that your head just spins and you're like, throw your hands up and walk away. But, it takes losing your son. It takes knowing that he was brutally murdered, that he was dismembered, that our military was attacked. Attacked. That Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss and we don't have his remains. This is a secure installation with all these cameras. We give him all this money and we don't have his remains. So our military was attacked and El Paso was attacked because every false story they wrote about Richard was an attack on the military and an attack on El Paso, because every one of those botched fake stories using unreliable sources, which there's a lot of, Rosemary Valdez Garcia, Leilani Hart, and of course Ernest Christopher Grant and Danae Katzen and Belen Rocha. Every one of those is a rewriting of history. It um, it they document it like it's the truth, but it's not. It's not, and so then it affects policy, and then it affects um, the court cases. Look at what happened here. They bring out these articles and videos and all that as evidence. You see it in Congress all the time. But yet it's fake. It's false. It's a false witness. It's a misleading to cover up criminals. And so one other breaking news, a lot of breaking news. We have so much breaking news. But just think about the timeline a little bit with Natassia Paloma. You had Christmas, which 25th of December. You had Christmas time. Sean Bernabe, the commander of Fort Bliss, searching the mock Afghanistan village, right, for Richard's remains, or to clean up evidence or whatever, right? I mean, we're getting all kinds of reports. He's out there at Christmas time when, he's supposed to be celebrating. He's supposed to be, all his soldiers or whatever, how many people were out there, right? And they were looking for Richard's remains, but also we have reports that they were also cleaning up evidence. And so that's at the end of December. And then you're talking, we find out who, we're in discussions with them because we're like, who is this guy? I uh, we weren't giving up. He said that the FBI found Richard in Juarez, and he absolutely was credible in that Dollar General store. To that, the most honest person in this whole case, and that is the cashier. And I'm, I'm really praying for her. Um, more than that, more than that. Absolutely, we wanted to know who Nadal Bayim was. Do we care that he's a Palestinian? No. Do we care that he has a record for terroristic threats? The Palestinian thing, what's really interesting is that he went to a British school. And because I homeschooled, because I lived in Europe for a long time, British schools are historically some of the best schools ever. So when you say you went to a British school in Qatar, right, or Kuwait, I believe it was Kuwait. If you say you went to a British school in Kuwait, that's a pretty good school in my mind. I don't know. So, does it matter to me? It does matter in the sense of this is an educated man. So, does he have this record? Does that matter? Yes, that matters. Because his son-in-law is Bradford Bugato of the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM. So, when we found out who he was, and he's all of these things, and then he's a bidder for ammunition of up to $3 million for the El Paso Police Department, and he has conflicts of interest with the suspects in Richard's case, then yes, it matters that we found out who he is, and we were, actively communicating with the command of Fort Bliss with new information all the time. And then we found out. And then he issues, when I was begging, and anyone that has been following this knows that Sean Bernabe promised monthly press releases on Richard. And he did not do that. He did not do that. He doesn't have his soldiers' backs. He is a liar to the families. He needs to be stripped of his uniform, stripped of his stars, stripped of every one of those benefits. He's a traitor. He's an absolute traitor. And he was looking for my son's remains during Christmas time, did not tell us. We had to have Team Find Richard Halliday in El Paso give us a call and say, hey, Bernabe's out here looking for Richard's remains, and more and more. And we had to call him up and say, "What are you doing?" "Oh, yeah, I was doing that." "Yeah, you were doing that. Well, why didn't you tell us?" "Because that means Richard is dead." What they have put us through. And then Natassia Paloma gets on there and say, "Oh, I'm one of the lucky ones. I got chosen. You other journalists, that are not connected to Danae Katzen." I mean, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't do that, but it's it's like she's connected, and I talk to the mother all the time, as she did. We let her in the home that we were staying in. She saw it all. She knew what we were suffering. She knew it up close, how we were suffering. And she participated with those that wanted to cover up to get away with murder, to get away with murdering a whistleblower soldier, a volunteer son of this republic, young. She sided with the cover up of the murderers. Yeah. She does it really well. She's very talented. And she's a total criminal. And, it makes me very, very sad because, yeah, she's going to have to explain that. She's a total criminal. A really bad criminal. And so then we have some other problems in El Paso. So we have this unqualified, chief medical examiner. We have a usurper as a DA. We have um, a really rotten KTSM team, betrayer in the military. Um, we have El Paso Matters using unreliable sources. We have FitFam El Paso that just wanted to operate incognito. We assumed their LLC. Now I believe I think that they're under, maybe, they'll, from what I gather, they're under audit well, the taxes are a big issue, right? You've got to pay your taxes. So now we have another big problem, and it's also complicated, and I'm just going to touch on it tonight, and then I'll explain it more as the days go on. But there are different kinds of judges, and we know we have Penny Hamilton, who we believe that Penny Hamilton might be working. Bill Hicks is very desperate for assistant district attorneys, right? Because we wrote like every law school that we could absolutely find an email for, which was a lot of them, and let them know that none of their young students should ever be picked up by Bill Hicks, because Bill Hicks was a usurper of the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office. And, so he's lost like over 30, can you believe it? attorneys. And now we find out that Penny Hamilton, and when her name pops up, it's like, what? Because, she's the one that her name popped up, uh, giving subpoenas in Richard's case, and when she was a judge. But she's not a judge anymore, right? She retired, I think, from that. Now, uh, we've heard rumors that she is working with Bill Hicks as an assistant district attorney. I don't know if that's true. Penny, you let us know. But I have a lot of questions about plea deals and subpoenas and all that in our son's case. So, um, but what's the big deal? Part of getting Richard's uh, rank back and his name reestablished is having to look through his court cases of what they used to try to discredit him. And you always find something, right? You always find something. And in Richard's case, it is that he went before before Alma Trejo, right? He went to the magistrate court. Well, what is a magistrate court? And we've been, looking it up. What is that? What kind of jurisdiction do they have? And what we found is, of course, we're not lawyers, so, they have to speak up. But something really is fishy going on with that, because the magistrate court seems to have total jurisdiction since 2015. And if they have total jurisdiction of the district, like a district judge, they have to be elected. That's our understanding. Maybe it's skewed, maybe, because we're not lawyers. But since, like it started in like 1980, late 1980s, that they established this magistrate court, and it's full of appointed judges. So hey, cousin, come on, I can appoint you. Hey, friend, you do me a favor, I can appoint you. It's these appointed judges. And Richard was brought in front of these appointed judges. But what we have discovered is that in 2015, there were some changes, and the magistrate court was given total jurisdiction over the district. Before then, they didn't have total jurisdiction, they only had partial jurisdiction. And so, with that, under the Texas Constitution, it seems like it that now those judges are illegal, that they're criminal. It seems there's a chance because they're not elected. And when you have that kind of jurisdiction, you have to be elected according, we think, correct us, under the Texas Constitution. And so that would mean good news for Richard, bad news for El Paso, good news for people that were, paying bonds and all of that. That means that magistrate court is absolutely null and void. I mean, they would. I think about that. So I will. It makes Richard's case a constitutional case. That's what it does. And the Gomer was based on him being brought in before the magistrate judge, the magistrate court. The Phil Grade Article 15 was dependent on that. Now, all of that was, you know, Alma Trejo had to dismiss it. Maybe she knew something. But we have the video footage of the K9 cop, right, with Richard. And Richard was absolutely beautiful. And I think they released the whole thing. Well, I don't think we ever released the whole thing, but the impersonating site did, and Richard was so beautiful. Um, so Amatrejo ruled properly, and maybe she knew that the magistrate court was an illegitimate court with illegitimate, and really they're breaking the law that makes them criminals, the judges. So we'll see if what we're saying has any weight. We're going to be doing a lot of letter writing, and this will help us reinstate Richard. Absolutely. So, was that a lot of news? That was so much news that my head is even spinning from today trying to keep up with um, all the information people have sent. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Keep going, keep going, keep sending us this information, keep sharing what you know, because that today was just groundbreaking when it comes to what's going on in El Paso and us getting Richard's um, rank back and everything. Yeah, so that we could get his remains. You just got to keep working. This is not a cold case. This is not a done deal. You know, this is a a murder case, a capital murder case, a capital murder case, and then the subsequent cover up, which is also criminal, right? So, thank you so much for coming on this late, and we will be back tomorrow, God willing. And please share. Please share. There's a lot of other things going on behind the scenes, and we're just trying to understand everything so that we can express them to you. So, thank you so much. God bless you, and please share.